This happened in the most sudden and unexpected moment. But as strange as it seems, it is true. A dungeon suddenly emerged in the yard of a middle-aged man's house when he ran a consulting business. As it turns out, this dungeon leads to the downfall of the world, which means the man has started a new enterprise, which is called Dungeon Busters. This story takes its start in Tokyo Metropolitan City, Edogawa Ward, to be more specific. A bunch of men were sitting in the cafe. Just an ordinary day, like any other. A man was enjoying some hot ramen. He picked some noodles with the sticks and swallowed that tasty meal in one go. Fatty and spicy, just like he likes. It didn't take long for him to finish his favorite dish. The man with a slight beard was full now. He left the cafe like he usually did. Of course, he didn't forget to say thanks to the chief. For now, his quick break was over. It was time to go back to his work. The man took his phone out of his pocket. He looked at the screen. There were many notifications there. He has a meeting with Mr. Sasaki at 1 p.m., and after that, the another one meeting with Mr. Kurokawa at 3 p.m. He was a busy man indeed. When he was heading to the meeting with Mr. Sasaki Shoji, the man's phone beeped. He picked up the call. Nothing special, really. Just another business call. He had plenty of calls like that, so the man got used to speaking automatically during such calls. And this is about time for us to learn more about this man. His name is Kazuhiko Ezoe. He is just a middle-aged man who lives in Tokyo and turns 40 this year. 10 years ago, he quit his job after becoming a certified business consultant and labor attorney. Ever since he's been working in Edogawa, Koto, and Chiba as a consultant for insurance companies, training lectures, and so on, he had plenty of work, that's for sure. Ezoe didn't bother too much when one company canceled their cooperation, because he knew that there is another company willing to cooperate with him gladly. Kazuhiko claims that he has no intent to get married. Therefore, he lives in a 30-years-old house in Shikabane District, Edogawa, which is an isolated island on land. He informs that both his parents passed away, and he also has no siblings. But there are relatives living a few miles away, who occasionally come to visit him. Kazuhiko says that this is just another day where nothing changes. He works 2 days and then has 2 days off. This is his quiet, carefree life, and he likes how it is. The man finished his meetings for today. Both Mr. Sasaki and Mr. Kurokawa were satisfied with the results of the meetings. Since Ezoe hadn't any meetings for today, he decides to have some fun before going home. Ezoe came to a familiar place. The man at the entrance recognized him very quickly. He greets Ezoe and asks what brought him here. Ezu wonders who is there today. Mochi, the man at the entrance, says that it's Miss Yuzu. The man looks at his watch and says that he has some extra time today, so it would be really nice. He also orders one drink and enters the building. Well, it seems the attorney has a great time with Miss Yuzu. Both were really glad to sit there and talk to each other. However, he couldn't sit there for too long. Ezu thanked Miss Yuzu for a great time and went home. He took out the key and stuck it in the door lock. Then the man turned it. The door unlocked. Kazuhiko goes in and shuts the door. He is stepping on the creaky old floor and says that he is home. I wonder to whom he said it, since he mentioned that he lives alone. Anyway, he turns the light on. Now, when the house was illuminated, it seemed a lot cozier and warmer. Ezoe goes to the sink to splash his face. It was quite a relieving ritual for the man. When he put some cold water on him, the man felt like all his troubles and worries were washed away with that water. He was a clean man, from the inside and outside as well. Then Ezoe boiled some water. He was hungry and ate only once, maybe 2 times at most. Besides, there was no better way to end that day than eating a cup of hot noodles with spice and shrimps. Ezoe prepared his sticks and drowned them in a hot bouillon. Hot, spicy shrimp was almost eaten by Ezoe. All of a sudden, he feels something. It was a strange feeling that something rocked. Ezoe watched the walls. They were steadfast. Still, he had a feeling in his guts that it was something dangerous. Ezoe supposed it could be an earthquake. So the man turned on his TV to check the information. But there was no news about any earthquake. There was the weather forecast for tomorrow. Speaker was talking about the weather in Koto. Ezoe decided that this was none of his interest. So after he didn't discover any information about the earthquake, the man turned off that noisy box. Since there was no particular news about the earthquake, Ezoe supposed he just drank too much. So he decided to have a quick supper and then immediately go to bed. The next day, Kazuhiko woke up as he usually does. In the morning, he finished his laundry and went to his garden. But this time, something was different. He found a huge hole right in his garden. Izoi claims this is strange since he didn't know there was such a hole. Kazuhiko was just standing there. The man had no idea what to do. The first thing that bothered him was how the hell that happened. He supposed it could be a meteorite, but then immediately dismisses the idea. Meteorites don't fall like that. Besides, this hole was square-formed. There are no square meteorites as far as he knows. Maybe it was a hole dug by a bear? Who knows? The man heads close to the hole. He takes a flashlight and points the light down there. Izoi discovers stairs there. He startles. The man wonders if this could be some kind of a basement. It was strange. There was no information about it when he bought the house. Then the man looks at his watch. He claims that he has 2 days off anyway. Therefore, he tries to figure out what this is and how he can dispose of it. With that being said, Izoi decides to give it a look. Izoi turned on his flashlight, which was his best friend down there. He took a step on the old stone stairway. Izoi wondered who designed it and what it was used for. He slowly went downstairs. Nothing but cold darkness was surrounding him. The man discovers that the air was flowing at this place. By the air flows, he could say that directionally. The length of this stairway extends to the neighbor's eaves. He wondered if it suddenly opened because of yesterday's earthquake. Izoi claims he would like to steer clear of any troubles in the neighborhood over this. Still, he had to find out how far this stairway goes. Even though this stairway may seem to be endless on a first glance, he was not that long. The man managed to reach its end after he had been going downstairs. Izoi discovered a huge door down there. That door looked like some sort of seal. Naturally, those seals exist to keep deadly monsters away from people. Was this seal one of them? Izoi didn't know that. He was amazed by what he just found. It seems that theories about meteorites or bears are irrelevant in this situation. Some other powers are behind the appearance of the hole in his garden. The size of this place impresses Izoi. The man claims it can be a nice basement for his needs, although he needs to get this place in shape first. However, for now, Kazuhiko supposes he should report this to the authorities. Meanwhile, he looks around. The door catches his attention pretty quickly. He claims that by its look, it's either a wartime bomb shelter or a military facility. That would be the most logical assumption, but there was no keyhole at all. Izoi steps closer. He pulls the door handle, but it doesn't help. The door is shut. The man wonders if this door will even open. When he peeked at the door, a loud thunder-like voice sounded across this place. The voice said something about the first contractor who was confirmed. Furthermore, it said that one orbital revolution remains until all dungeons are activated. Last, but not least, the voice mentioned that the dungeon system is activating in accordance with world law. The voice was so loud that Izoi couldn't take it with his naked ears. He closed ears with his hands to lower the pressure on his hearing. The man was looking around for the source of the sound. Unfortunately, he didn't find it. Then the voice told him about the character card, Akane, the bewitching female ninja. Thunderous Voice also informs Izoi about setting up the unique ability, Card Gacha. Plus, Izoi can use a few rewards such as increasing card capacity, skill slots, and skill selection. Apparently, as soon as Izoi came down here, some sort of system was activated, and it seems it can't be stopped. The voice informs the man that dungeon roulette finished as well as coordinate fixation. Then Izoi hears that this dungeon is called Abyss, and this is A-level dungeon, which I guess is the easy level. What's even more strange, in the end the voice wished him luck and told that he is looking forward to Izoi's progress towards a new era. Quite a polite voice. Then, right above the man, a beautiful woman appeared. She looked like a pure angel who came down from the sky to save this poor man. The woman looked at him with interest. She smiled and wondered if he was her host. Kazuhiko was shocked by her appearance. Looks like his garden became the perfect place for appearing of holes or some divine girls. This mysterious girl called Izoi her master. Whoever she was, the man couldn't take his eyes off her. She slowly approaches him with a smile on her lovely face. Izoi was speechless. The man couldn't move his limbs. Meanwhile, this girl continued approaching him. Her look was driving him crazy. Did he hear her right? Did she really call him her master? This lady could turn any man into her servant herself. When the glamorous lady was close enough, she stopped and giggled. She definitely noticed Izoi's charmed gaze. The lady told him that she can feel his gaze, which made Ezoe a bit embarrassed. Kazuhiko lowered his flashlight. The mysterious lady told him that she is a servant for her master, and every inch of her body now belongs to the master. The man was shocked by her words and tried to say that it's not what he meant. He actually wished to know something else, but the lady continued her speech and introduced herself. Her name is Akane, and she is a ninja. The lady also apologized for being late. Then Akane calls Ezoe her master. She explains that this is the difficulty, a dungeon called Abyss, and what they have to do together now is to save the world. Akane is a ninja, and she is also one of the 108 pillars of the dungeon system. Her role is very simple. She has to greet the first person who enters the dungeon as a master. But the most interesting part is that every inch of her body shall belong to that person. And since it was Ezoe who entered the dungeon first, well, you may guess it yourself. The lady also claims that she acquires various skills to please particular gentlemen and do things in such ways they wish. It seems that her words excite the man. After all, who wouldn't be excited by the words of this cute lady? Akane looked at him and assumed Ezoe was agitated. She wonders if she can do anything to ease his anxiety. The man apologized. He claims that he is confused and his mind in chaos right now. Quite understandable. Even though such a beautiful lady was standing in front of him, the fact that she came out of nowhere was a bit confusing. So Ezoe was sorry that Akane's first impression of him might be bad. Like a gentleman he is, Ezoe tried to fix this issue. He asks Akane to give him only 1 minute. After that, her impression of him is going to change. Luckily for Ezoe, the ninja lady gives him a second chance. Besides, it is not his problem that such a marvelous lady came out of nowhere in this ancient dungeon or whatever this is. Akane looked at the man with interest. She wondered how he would behave this time. After putting himself together, Ezoe finally gets used to the fact that this gorgeous lady is going to accompany him. He takes a deep breath and walks around the place, looking around. Her appearance is actually very useful now, as she might know about this place a lot more than he does. So, what's the situation? The man says that there is an underground that appeared out of nowhere suddenly. An unknown voice coming from somewhere and information that is beyond comprehension. A card that shines brightly and a mysterious lady. That's the situation. At least Ezoe knows one thing for sure. This is definitely not a dream. The man supposes that he better not be thinking about whys in this kind of situation. He claims it would be better to organize the information given at times when the unpredictable is present. Ezoe wonders about the dungeon system which the mysterious voice spoke about. Akane smiles. She responds that the dungeon system is one of the universe's laws which regulates the world itself. It is like the water flowing from a place that is high to a place that is low. Akane asks the man to think about this system as one of the laws of nature. The female ninja lets him know that by next year, 666 dungeons will appear in places around the world. However, where it appears is random every time. Plus, about 66 or 67 dungeons appear at once, and this cycle repeats 10 times. Something's getting clear. Ezoe says that they were talking about one revolution that was left. But if the dungeon system is some sort of the laws of nature, then what exactly is the dungeon itself? Ezoe asks if the dungeon is a deep cave where countless ferocious monsters reside. Akane confirms that, but she says it's more like a different world than the one the man lives in, to be more precise. The beauty says that there are difficulties which start from S to F. The numbers of the dungeons are already decided, and S dungeons appeared 7 times while A dungeons take up 10%. B to D take up 70% of the total dungeons. She also informs Ezoe that the dungeon difficulty is decided by rank, how strong the monsters are in that particular dungeon, and what he can get from the dungeon as a reward. Kazuhiko asked her about the reward. He wondered what that was. Akane responds that the dungeons usually give water, food, money, etc. Basically speaking, the reward is things that are considered valuable in that particular world. But since civilization has advanced greatly in the current era, money is often given as the reward. Ezoe looks like he gets the idea of the dungeons and the dungeon system, so he can earn some money here. It is true, but Akane tells him that for this, he must fight the dangerous monsters here. But the next news was quite upsetting for the man. Akane says that it's prohibited to enter the dungeon with a weapon. which means it is impossible for armies and troops to destroy the dungeon. Then Ezoe wonders how someone can fight monsters. Lady Akane tells him that the first person who enters the dungeon is a master. That person should have received a few benefits from the system. Akane opens a window which displays Ezoe's status. Akane points out that the benefits are as follows. In this special status, the storage where cards are stored is limitless, and usually where only 2 to 3 skills can be obtained is expanded to 6 skills, which means that they let Ezoe fight by using the skills given to him in the dungeon. The man imagined some possible scenarios of him fighting the deadly monsters here. He rolled those scenes in his head, and in the end, he got the idea how to defend himself here and successfully obtain some money as the reward. Akane also informs the man that if he enters the dungeon, he can also obtain various monster cards. She shows 3 of them to Ezoe and asks him if he would like to see it for himself. Kazuhiko refuses to see the monsters. He says that before this, he needs some time to prepare himself. He suggests they talk about the rest of this inside his house. Ezoe wonders if Akane can come up from underground. Lady Akane lowers her head. She says she is terribly sorry, but she can only be summoned within the dungeon. She says that if this happens outside, she would probably be placed in a card. It was bad news. Still, Ezoe wanted to go back to his house. He asked Akane if she could go back to her card even though he just came here. Ezoe claims that he is still a bit confused and needs to organize their conversation just now. The lady says that she will do as he asks and asks Ezoe to call her by her name. The man agrees. He also asks Akane to call him by the name or surname that are written in his status. Lady Akane agrees to that. Then the female ninja who just stood in front of him turned into a card. Kazuhiko sighed. He was still confused by what he saw, but it seems the man started to get used to all this mysterious stuff over here. He picks the card and puts it in his pocket. Ezoe claims that a character who can come out of the card seems to be the only thing a Japanese person could believe. Ezoe wonders what to do now. Of course, to go back to his house. The man tried to comprehend things he just saw. He is smoking a cigarette. Now I'm warning you that this is a bad thing for your health, so you should stay away from it. Anyway, let's go back to Ezoe. The man was thinking about that mysterious hole in his backyard. The charming Lady Akane was also in his thoughts. Of course she was. The man claims it is something straight out of a dream. However, it was reality. The man looked at his phone. There were some notifications on display. Ezoe says he has a day off tomorrow. Plus, there aren't many meetings left today. And the day after tomorrow, he has 2 new cases. Not to mention a giant hole in his backyard. Ezoe looked at his watch. He wondered how it would be better to spend the rest of his day today. When he looked at his watch, Ezoe noticed something strange. The man was surprised to discover that his watch and smartphone clock aren't matching each other. His smartphone clock showed time 10:03 a.m., whereas his watch showed 10:30 a.m. The man recalls that he had his watch on even after entering the dungeon, but he left his phone in the living room. He talked with Akane for about 30 minutes, but only a few minutes have passed according to the clock in his phone. Ezoe wondered if his watch was broken. But then he dismissed this idea. Instead, he came up with a theory that the passage of time is different above and under the dungeon. To check the theory, Ezoe brings the second watch. Kazuhiko takes off the watch from his wrist. The man puts a thread on one of the watches and hangs it above the dungeon. While this watch will be hanging above the entrance to the dungeon, the second one will be on the surface, in our world. With 2 identical clocks, this experiment will prove whether or not there is the difference between the passage of time. Ezoe sets his watches and starts the experiment. The man is going to hang his watch above the dungeon for 1 minute, while the other watch is on his wrist. He wonders if there will be any difference in 1 minute between these clocks. And if there really is a difference, Ezu is planning the ways of how to use it effectively. While the clock was hanging above the dungeon, something unexpected happened. It started rotating suddenly. This fact made it impossible to tell the exact time, so Ezoe supposes he should hang the clock elsewhere, where it's more deep. He paces the thread with the clock a bit lower. Kazuhiko sat like that for a minute. Then, after he saw some kids who were apparently going back from school, the man decided that his time inspection was over and he must check the results. Ezoe pulls up the thread. He puts both watches on the ground. The clock that was on Ezoe's wrist showed that only 1 minute had passed, but the one which was hanging above the dungeon, This clock showed that around 2 hours had passed while it was hanging above the dungeon. The man says that for the clock which was hanging, the hand rotated vigorously, which means that inside the dungeon, time passes quicker. Izoi decides to ask Akane about the time passage just in case. Woman tells him that on the first level of the dungeon, also known as the safe zone, the time passes 466 times faster than on the ground, which means if Izoi spends 6 days here, around only 1 hour will have passed above. Her words further convinced him that this place really is not a part of his world. Akane tells him that he thinks right, since the speed of how fast time passes here and above is different. Beauty says that a dungeon is a living thing itself. Therefore, it is impossible to measure or understand it by human intelligence. Did she just call him stupid? I guess not. Izoi tells her that at first he thought this place was some kind of shelter. He says this is quite a proper place for such things. Akane tells him that he can pass his time here whenever he likes. Besides, this place also made for monsters not to spawn, so it's completely safe here. She wonders if the man has taken some liking to it. Maybe he has. But first, he wonders if this place is really completely safe. Akane claims that monsters don't appear if he doesn't go farther than this place. Lady Akane claims she doesn't mind if Izoi spends his days here with her. The man was not in the right mood for this right now. Before spending his days here, he organized some information. If this dungeon appeared in his backyard, then currently there is no other person than him who has discovered this dungeon yet. And one more thing. The man wonders what Akane meant when she told him to save the world together. She says that if humanity fails to capture and defeat all 666 dungeons within 10 years, monsters will overflow from the dungeons which failed to be captured, which will cause monster stampedes to occur. Then, monsters will eat every last bit of humanity. Izoi's heartbeat became faster. His legs became weak. Was this all his fault? The man asked Akane if this happened because he activated the dungeon system. Akane says that Kazuhiko was just the first person who contacted the dungeon system, and there is no point of lamenting over something that has already happened. Akane Ninja claims that there won't be any problem if he just subjugates every dungeon in 11 years from now on. Then she wonders what the man is going to do. Kazuhiko lowers his head. It seems that it was his careless actions which will bring an end to this world. So what should he do about it? Akane tells Izoi a bit more about the monster stampede. She claims that this means all the monsters from uncleared dungeons will rush out all at once in a never-ending tide. Akane says that the man, quite unlikely, can handle monsters then. So she points out that now everything is in Izoi's hands. The man numbed after hearing her words. His hands were shaking. He called this himself. Could it be that everything she just said is his responsibility? It was not easy for him to take this information being nonchalant. Her point of view was that if they won't conquer all the dungeons in 11 years, then monsters will rise and destroy the world. But her response was quite surprising. Akane says that she doesn't really know how exactly the monsters will rise since her memories have been erased. But she knows for sure that countless civilizations have been wiped out like this. Izoi tries to put himself together. First thing first, the man calms down and thinks about what to do next. One thing for sure, running is not an option. Then how should he solve this? Call cops, maybe, or report this to the government. That's right, this is exactly what he was going to do. But wait, even if they believed him, many people would have realized the world might end relatively soon. And if he tries to live while ignoring the fact he is the person who triggered the whole phenomenon, he supposes all the stress and guilt are going to crush him. Then, he asks Akane to verify that it was actually him who made the first contact. Then he needs to find all the other dungeons. However, Akane says that she doesn't know how she will be able to find all the dungeons. Then Izoi comes up with a crazy idea. The man assumes he needs to remodel the dungeon. He will call it Dungeon DIY. Dungeon DIY? It seems that this name confused Akane. After a while, the man goes out of the dungeon. He brings some tin and tools. Izoi covers the hole with tin and nails it. Is he trying to seal the dungeon this way? Or he just wants to hide the entrance from others? In any case, Izoi's work causes some noise. An old lady, Yamada-sama, was passing through Izoi's fence. She heard a noise and looked at the man's backyard. She found Izoi there and said that he seems busy today. The man smiled and apologized for being noisy. Kazuhiko explains that he had a bad experience with a raccoon recently. The old lady supposes she will ask him to fix her wardrobe someday. He smiles. The man claims he will be glad to help her. Besides, it doesn't sound like a big deal anyway. Yamada-sama says goodbye and leaves. When alone, Ezoe goes back to his thoughts about the dungeons. The man claims that the monster stampede danger is real. Therefore, humanity is now one step closer to annihilation. Since the first dungeon opened up in his backyard and the entrance to the dungeon is on his property, that means it's his until he surrenders it to the police. He also assumes that if he turns this place into a workspace, the workflow will be more efficient while clearing the dungeons. Izoe says that he spent the last 2 days creating a DIY dungeon, so the only thing that is left now is to get ready. The next scene takes place in the dungeon. Akane says that she didn't expect such a request from Ezoe. The man sits in a chair, taking off his shoes. He straightens his feet so Akane's job would be easier. Lady admits she would never have thought that the man's first command would be foot massage. Izoe says he managed to cover the entrance with a plastic tarp, but he hasn't finished the desk. Akane-sama tells him that she never thought Ezoe would turn this place into an office. She claims none of her previous masters did something like this. The man stretched out with pleasure. He responds that he thought it would be a great idea to bring a bed here. He wished to have some rest before entering the dungeon. The beautiful lady tells him that she can offer him much more than just a foot massage. She reminds him that she poses special skills for relaxing and making good for her master. The man refuses her offer. Ezoe says he will ask for this later, not now. For now, he was satisfied enough with a foot massage. Besides, Akane was a pro. While the lady ninja was crumpling his feet, Izoe was looking at her. The legendary card named Akane. She is a beautiful female ninja tasked as a dungeon guide who possesses a special ability. Ezoe admits he asked her for a foot massage to test her skills. In the end, he was pleasantly surprised. The man claims it would be even better if she used her special skill. However, it wasn't the right time. Ezoe raises up. Akane asks how the foot massage was. The man says that he really appreciates that, and thanks to the massage, he feels much more relaxed now. Then Ezoe asks her what they should plan on doing next. The man tells Akane he wants to be prepared for everything. He says that since this dungeon appeared on his property, only he is allowed to enter. That also includes this room as well, which means Akane is also free to make it look however she likes. She thanks him for this opportunity. The man looks around this place. He claims it looks pretty nice. He supposes it might look even better if he puts up some cool wallpaper. This place would also feel comfy with a laminated floor and sofa. Akane wonders if Ezoe is going to bring the sofa to this place. The man says it's a good idea, so why not? Besides, if he does so, that means Akane will also have the opportunity to rest. The beauty from the card looked at him with joy. She approached the man and had a seat on his knees. She hugged Izoe and told him that she can't believe he is going to do this for her. His words moved her to tears. Kazuhiko was glad that she appreciated the idea, but for now he wanted to go back to work. He apologizes and says he needs to work, but Akane is quite a distraction in this form. Therefore, the man wants her to... Akane interrupted him. Beauty shouts that she understands what she means. Her voice was full of disappointment and sadness. She wanted to be with Ezoe for a little longer, but he was her master, and he told that she distracts him. So Akane turned into a card. It seems Ezoe will remember her blushed face for a long time. He picks up the card and claims the lady looked really mad. The man throws his glance around the place. He admits that it would be impossible to conquer all 666 dungeons on his own. This means he will need a reliable group of friends which can help him. But notifying the public about a possible mass extinction would just create chaos. Izoe claims that the emergence of dungeons every month is going to cause mayhem on a global scale. Therefore, he assumes he needs to make his move at just the right time. And he also believes that this safe zone is essential for him. The man is going to make this his base for attacking dungeons. Izoe took this very seriously. Could he do otherwise? Nah, he couldn't, considering it was his responsibility. So after he finished with his safe zone, he brought many useful things here. The man starts checking the equipment. Googles, military gloves, long sleeve shirt, cut-resistant vest, flashlight, helmet, waterproof travel backpack. Yep, looks like everything was fine. Ezoe says he has everything ready to explore. Akane, looking at Ezoe's stuff, wonders if there is anything he can use as a weapon. The man says that the weapons are cards, so they won't be carrying additional weights. Ezoe takes on his goggles. Akane tells him that the air inside of dungeons is generally non-poisonous. Still, there are traps that use poison gas, but the gas will naturally dissipate if the man simply waits for a while. Looks like the man finished his preparations. Akane was beside him. Everything was ready for starting the dungeon exploration. Okay, let's go! The place was really big. Looks like this passage was well builded, and no monster has been spotted yet. The man claims this place is much brighter than expected, and the air feels clean and fresh. Akane explains that it's because the man is near the safe zone. It is also the reason why there aren't any monsters here. Ezoe admired her for a little, but he has work to do. The man admits Akane-sama is really good looking. Ever since their first meeting, she has been really polite and very dedicated, and makes him feel assured. As funny as it seems, the man wonders what would happen if he asked her to wear heels. All of a sudden, Akane-sama turned her eyes at Ezoe. She points at him and claims she can feel his lewd gaze running all over her body. Wow, looks like she has some sort of a sixth sense. The man tries to make an excuse and tells her he just was a bit distracted. Lady Akane says she doesn't mind, actually. The man scratches his nape. He tells her he was just disappointed since he expected to find monsters sooner. Yeah, that's right. We believe you, Ezoe. Akane tells him that in most cases, the monsters that appear on the first floor are weak enough for humans to defeat with their bare hands. But this is an A-rank dungeon, so there is no really telling what might occur. Ezoe listened to her carefully. He assumes they also should start mapping the area. Akane tells him that won't be necessary as she is the legendary card Akane, which means there is no way she would ever get lost. What's even better, she can feel monsters drawing close. Akane asks Ezoe to be cautious. Just about time. It looks like they are about to meet the first monsters whose clawed paw just appeared from the corner. It was a goblin. Just as Akane said, there were weak monsters on the first floor. At least goblins seem weak enough for humans, especially when there is only one monster. Akane and Ezoe hid behind the corner. He asked Akane if this is really a goblin. She confirmed. Akane also told him that it's one of the weaker types of the monsters in the dungeon. Looks like a perfect punching bag for Ezoe. Akane says that goblins are only the size of a small child and can be found alone or in groups. And those creatures were really small. Ezoe supposes they were about 3 feet tall at most, 1 meter. Kazuhiko wondered if goblins ever take advantage of that to get closer and sneak attack. Then he heard a strange rummage. The man looked at his right hand. He finds a little cute goblin hanging on his arm with his claws. Even though this little monster was cute as a little monkey, the goblin was determined to eat Ezoe, or at least take a bigger bite from the man. The cute goblin wasn't joking. He chewed and munched Ezoe's arm like crazy. Finally, Ezoe swept his hand and managed to toss the goblin away. The man looked at his wound. It wasn't deep. He compares a goblin's strength to a dog's, which means he can certainly handle these monsters. The goblin rises up and dashed at Ezoe. Even though the man was almost 40 years old, he was too fast for a goblin. As soon as this little cutie jumped to bite Ezoe once more, he landed a precise jab right to the monster's chin. Goblin didn't survive this. The monster fell down, but instead of the sound of a falling body, Ezoe heard the sound of a falling gold. The goblin turned into a golden coin. Interesting. Ezoe looked at the coin for a while. Is that really money? Was this the reward Akane spoke about? Suddenly, he heard Akane's voice. She slowly approached him like she did when they first met. Akane congrats him with his first victory. She says that it seems that this dungeon is the type that drops the money. The money is the reward for defeating monsters. She asked Ezoe how he feels after defeating his first monster. The man responds that for his first time, it felt surprisingly good to defeat the monster for money. Akane says she is glad to hear that. The lady says that in most dungeons, the first floor is designed to be the easiest in order to lure more people in. Normally, that means bugs or slimes that can be killed by a single stomp of the foot. But this is an A-rank dungeon, so it's throwing goblins at Ezoe. Besides, she says she was impressed Ezoe dealt with the goblin with just one punch. Akane claims Ezoe is stronger than she thought. The man shows his brass knuckles. He claims it was all thanks to this thing. The lady wondered if he brought a pair of brass knuckles here. Izoi says he calls them a protection tool for his fingers, and the dungeon agrees with him in that, because these brass knuckles were classed as armor, not the weapon. Akane was amazed by his idea. Her master found a loophole. She expected no less from him. Izoi supposed they must keep going. Akane agrees. Izoi and Akane were making their way through the first floor without much trouble. Of course, they were attacked by some goblins, but those little monsters were no match for our heroes. They took down every goblin they met on their way. And get the reward for this, of course. 3 hours later, Akane says that she supposes they have seen most of the first floor for now. She wonders if Izoi wants to go back and have some rest. The man refuses. He says that if they are done with clearing the first floor, then he would like to see the second one. The man also tells her that he didn't notice the first floor was laid out in a grid pattern till now. He also claims it was easier than he expected. But while he was clearing the first floor, the man also drew an image of the floor in his head. He noticed that the floor was 600 feet, 800 meters, long, and had a grid-like pattern of passages. At the far right, the man found the stairs leading to the second floor. Akane says she wouldn't recommend going up to the second floor yet. The beautiful lady claims that Izoi should try to advance to E rank on this floor first, because most dungeons tend to raise their danger levels significantly once one gets to the second floor. I guess she has the point. Izoi also agrees with her. He says that he will train a little more on the way back. Akane assumes they need to have some rest in a safe zone. Then both of them go back to safety. In the end, Izoi finds a goblin card in his hand. Beauty says that this is the monster card, which is also a reward for defeating monsters. With this card, Izoi can summon goblins inside the dungeon. The man claims that from what he learned, it's possible to get up to 2 cards for every 100 monsters killed. And now he has exactly 10 cards. All of a sudden, the man noticed the status window that appeared out of nowhere. He wondered why it was shown to him. Then he sees the changes in the card gacha line. It showed that the man has one. He wondered what it meant. Then he gets it. He can pull gacha with just 10 monster cards. The man looks at Akane. An interesting idea comes to his mind. Izoi wondered what would happen if Akane was used or gacha. Lady Akane was quite surprised. She leaned forward and asked Izoi if he sacrificed her just to pull some random skill. She was hoping that that man wouldn't do such a thing. The man apologized. He explains that he was just thinking out loud. He claims that he would never let her go unless he dies or conquers all the dungeons. His words made Akane blush. He is thinking about the goblin card. The average drop rate for this card is about 2 to 3%. So to get 10 more cards, Izoi needs to defeat 500 goblins. The man wonders what he should do next. He supposes he must touch the screen with them. Kazuhiko does so. Suddenly it worked and the screen started changing right in front of his eyes. Then Izoi beholden 4 new categories: weapon, character, equipment, and item. He wonders if he is allowed to use the weapons and equipment that he gets from the gacha. Akane tells him that he can use that, but if he wants to bring them to the surface, he will have to make them materialize here in the dungeon. Izoi chose his item. He presses the icon with his finger. After that, he receives a potion card. Izoi claims it is a waste of time. Then he notices a C letter. He supposes that it must mean common. He wonders if that means there are also UC, R, SR, UR, and LR. The man claims this really is gacha, video games in which players spend in-game currency to unlock random items. They were named by Gachapon, a toy vending machine popular all over Japan. Akane says that Izoi can drink the potion like a cold medicine, and it also cures scratches and bruises in the blink of an eye. She touches the man's shoulder. Akane asks him not to be discouraged just because he got a common card on his first try. She also tells Izoi that he doesn't need any potions to heal his wounds. All he has to do is ask her to lick his wounds. What? It's that sort of thing that is a turn on and turn off at the same time. Izoi asks Akane not to be so close, since he is a man after all. The lady giggled and claimed she just felt something soft. Akane claims she can see Izoi's desire. She encourages him not to hold back. Actually, he wants Izoi to let his desires run wild. I don't know what kind of willpower this guy possesses, but he manages to hold himself. Izoi gently pushes her back and tells Akane that he is still only an F rank and fights monsters with his bare hands. Therefore, he supposes they should hold on until he can get a little stronger. A smile showed on Akane's flirty face. She approached Izoi and leaned on him tightly. Akane asked him to make sure that he reserved some time for her soon. Akane also reminds Izoi about his promise. She tells him that no matter what happens, she will always be by his side. It seems that her response satisfied Izoi enough. We continue our journey somewhere in the dungeon. Apparently, Izoi and Akane take a break and decide to sum up the intermediate results. Izoi shows his pouch, which is full with golden coins. He claims that he has defeated over 500 goblins in the last few days, and they have dropped 553 500 yen coins. The man says that that is 276 500 yen in total. Izoi wonders what he should do with the taxes if he considers this as an income. Akane wondered what taxes were. The man explains that here in Japan, a person has to declare the source of his income to the government. Izoi supposes he should exchange it at the bank and put it in his account. But here comes the problem. How is Izoi going to explain the money he got in the dungeon? It will be too hard. The man decides that for now, instead of relying on this money, he will continue his consulting work and focus on conquering the dungeon. Izoi dresses in his shirt and looks at the mirror. That's strange. The man claims he must lose some weight since his shirt and belt are a bit loose. Akane assumes it must be because of a reinforcing factor. The man wondered what the reinforcing factor was. The charming lady says that the strengthening factor is the smoke that monsters produce when defeated. If the man absorbs the smoke into his body, he will experience dramatic growth. It will increase muscle strength, reflex speed, and cell regeneration. Izoi says he gets the point. The man clenches his hand and notices that he feels a change in the quality of his muscles. He claims that if he gets too skinny, he won't look dignified as a consultant. With that being said, Izoi finished his preparations. It is time to go to work. He tells Akane that he will be going now. She wishes him a nice trip. They met at some cafe. A friend of Izoi noticed that Kazuhiko lost some weight. The man responded that he started doing a bit of exercise. The guy replied that he envies Kazuhiko for becoming slimmer. In any case, he wonders about the thing he had asked for. Let me introduce the guy named Iwamoto. This guy is Ezoi's childhood friend. Kazuhiko says that he did everything perfectly. He lends a document to Iwamoto. There are training plans and career grant application forms. With this, the subsidies should be granted. Iwamoto claims that there are a lot of complaints about cigarette smoke from part-timers. He would recommend separating smoking areas in restaurants. Iwamoto says that with this, he can hold a meeting with the next manager to discuss this. Izoi is glad about his friend. His friend wonders why Izoi doesn't want to become one of his executives, as he could trust him with management. Kazuhiko says he is glad to hear this offer from his friend, but he prefers to be a lone wolf. Iwamoto says that he would like to hear different answer, but he's cool with that. He wonders if he can rely on Izoi again. The man says he will be glad to help his friend anytime. Looks like Kazuhiko arranged a nice office down there in the dungeon. He wonders if he should bring a bed here as well. And also, he assumes it would be a great idea to have an item box like in a light novel. Akane leaned above Izoi and told him that he already has all this. She appeared suddenly like she always does. The lady says that she is glad Izoi is here. She approaches him and sits on his knees. That's her favorite place. The man says that if she keeps inviting him like this, he might really do this. She responds that she is glad about this. Akane tells him that she's been waiting for his kindness. The man tells her to back off because he has to finish his work. So that's it for today. Akane does as he asks her. Akane informs Izoi that according to light novels, he can draw 11 times for every 10 gacha draws. Izoi replies that for now, he tries to gather enough goblin cards for 10 draws. She was surprised. Beauty claims that he gets a card for 50 goblins. This means he will have to kill 500 goblins. She wonders if the man is fine with that. Izoi says that it's completely okay since at this pace he can kill 100 goblins in 2 hours. To kill 500 goblins, he must spend 100 hours, which means he will take a 30-minute break every 4 hours 4 times and get 8 hours of sleep every 18 hours. The time spent fighting is 16 hours, so he must do it 6 times. In total, it will be 148 hours in dungeon time. Of course, he will take a shower and else above the ground. He plans to spend 4 extra hours on that. Akane asks if the man is going to fight goblins for 148 hours. Izoi claims he needs this to determine how often he ranks up. The man says that the efficiency of extermination is important after all. He also says that he brought towels and an air mattress, so they can start their test. And the test has started. A bunch of goblins were approaching Izoi. Only this time, none of them was cute at all. Yes, they weren't cute, but completely crazy. Crazy enough to eat the person who was unlucky to show up in front of them. None of them was a match to Izoi, though. Their appearance didn't scare the man. Equipped with his brass knuckles and having some experience behind him, Izoi did what he used to do. He wiped out those monsters without breaking a sweat. The man landed a powerful strike on the goblin. The hit was so devastating that the little monster flew quite far. Then Izoi noticed a pattern, a way to defeat goblins efficiently. He claims that adding kick and then punch, when running, might be the most quick way to defeat them. To check his assumption, the man says that he has to try 4 sets of this. Wonderful! It seems Izoi found the fastest way to deal with goblins. They definitely couldn't stand a chance against the man, and Izoi managed to defeat 100 goblins with his new method quite fast. Izoi sums the results. It took 110 minutes to defeat them. He got the card and claims this was much faster than before. Just as the man expected, 2 cards have dropped. But still, he didn't rank up. Izoi wonders how many more goblins he needs to defeat for that. In the end, the man decides to repeat everything one more time. With these words, Izoi rushed to the battle. Meanwhile, Akane was watching Izoi. Looks like the lady was learning from him. She says that if he defeats 100 goblins in 2 hours, then he has to repeat this 500 times. Quite a large number. Besides, the lady claims this is the first time she sees someone who thinks about efficiency and theory while attacking. Akane says that for achieving his goals, Izoi executes, verifies, and improves. She was really amazed by this man. Lady Ninja claims she has never had a master like him before. Finally, Izoi is done with clearing the first floor of the dungeon. It was time for dinner and a short break. 2 plates of hot rice were waiting for them. One for Izoi and the second for Akane. The lady raises a spoon. She claims it's such a luxury and she has never thought about it. The woman shone with joy. She claims that these days there is a wide selection of survival foods, and they taste great. Izoi didn't respond. He was eating automatically while thinking about something else. Something bothered him. The man claims that the card drop rate hasn't changed today. He supposes he should probably do a few more rounds. But it will be later. For now, after eating, the man is going to take a 8-hour break. Then he wishes to take a bath once he goes back above ground. Looks like the break is over. Kazuhiko returned to the dungeon and continued his work with dedication that was his natural trait. He wiped out goblins one by one. They didn't cause much problems for him. Then, all of a sudden, Izoi stopped. Something unusual catches his eye. Akane was there. She wondered what's bothering Izoi. The man was confused. He looked at his hand and told her that he feels like he beated a goblin with a single punch this time. Could it mean that? The man hurries to check what happened. He opens the status window and looks at his status. Akane cries out of excitement. Izoi's rank has increased. He finally reached E rank. So after all his hard work, he actually got the results. The man thanks her for congratulations, but he wonders about his new skill. In the skills slot, there was just one line, gotcha card. But now there was also the second skill, called empty. Izoi wishes to know what this is. Akane tells him that in the first place, skills are acquired from orbs obtained in dungeons or through many years of experience. So seeing empty listed is a first for her. Interesting. A thing that even Akane has no idea about. In any case, Izoi says he will check his status a bit later. For now, the man is going to do the calculations again since he reached E rank. A few moments later, the man was learning the status screen. There wasn't much information about this, so he had to find out everything on his own. Izoi was chilling on his comfy sofa, trying to figure out how to deal with his new skill. Suddenly, the lady approached him. She asked if the man finished his meal. Izoi told her he did and thanked Akane for dinner. She wondered if he would rest for the rest of the day. Kind of. But before that, he has a job to do. The man says he wants to have a look at his new empty skill slot. Akane leaned above the man as if nothing happened. Like an innocent cutie she is, she asked him if he is speaking about his new skill he obtained from the rank up. Izoi confirms this. Izoi enjoyed her company. He really did. Unfortunately, Akane's, let's say, eyes were quite a distraction for the man. He claimed he can't see anything because of them. Lady Akane smiled. She stepped back a little bit. She was still close as hell to Izoi, but at least he could see something with his uncovered right eye. Empty slot contained 3 options: martial arts, swordsmanship, and spearmanship. Interesting. The man claimed that if he is right, he can choose any skill from these. There was also option. Izoi explains that this means it will be available after meeting certain conditions. If he touches it with his finger, a description appears just like in a game. It was interesting, but Akane was wondering which skill Izoi is going to choose. She suggested he chose martial arts. Lady points out that Izoi's combat style has been primarily focused on physical attacks thus far. With martial arts skill, it would be much easier for the man to use his experience. Kazuhiko says he sees her point, but this skill is off the table. Kazuhiko says he will have to deal with 666 dungeons all over the world, and the key to success isn't his own strength, but the power of the group. What he really needs is a skill that can form a unit or a group. Lady Akane claims she expected no less from her master. It's his style to take the future into consideration. Therefore, Izoi says they must find out what other skills are available. He claims that each one must have its own traits. Finally, the man goes back above ground. He was waiting for this quite long. Shower, I mean. When showering, Izo admits it sounds funny. He has a shower above ground and sleeps in the dungeon. Good thing that the time passage is different here and underground. Still, he claims he will have to get used to managing time. And since there is no sunlight, he has to think about nutrition. Suddenly, he hears a doorbell. Looks like he is going to think about nutrition later. First, he must check who pays him a visit. His only hope was that it was someone who won't take much time. A postman, for example. He says that he is coming to open the door. When he opens the door, he sees a smiling face of a young girl. She greets Kazuhiko and tells him she came for her part-time job. Let's just hope Akane won't be jealous of her. The girl seems to have known Kazuhiko for a long time. I wonder what exactly is her part-time job. Well, let's have a look. Kazuhiko lets her in. The girl enters the house and looks around. She notices a bunch of trash bags in there. The girl wonders if there is more garbage than usual. Looks like she's right. She also doesn't seem glad about a big number of pre-made meals in Kazuhiko's house. She claims it is bad for his health. Izoi apologized for that. Since there was a lot of work, she started to clean up the place. Izoi introduces the girl. Her name is Mari Kanuchi. She's his relative, and after her parents' divorce 3 years ago, she moved back to her hometown in Edogawa City. Since she returned, she has been coming over once a week to do errands as her part-time job. Mari wasn't happy about all the mess over her. She claims she is going to tell her mom about this. Izoi tries to explain to her that there are some circumstances behind this and asks her not to wonder about details. Izoi looks at his watch. He claims this may be a problem. The thing is, Izoi was planning to go back into the dungeon, but he can't exactly enter now that Mari is here. So he assumes he should put today's testing on the shelf. Suddenly, he sees that Mari's been staring at him. Her behavior irritates him. The man asks what's the matter. Mari claims he looks slimmer now, wondering if he lost some weight. Izoi denies this and claims he is the same as ever. Then the man says that he started a new job, so Mari's paycheck will be increased now. She cries out of excitement. Mari says it's just about time as they have a school trip in October, so she is very grateful for the opportunity to have more money for her trip. Kazuhiko tells her he is also happy to help. After all, her family has been in a difficult financial situation ever since the divorce. The best he can do as a relative is increase her allowance like this. The news about increasing her allowance cheered up the girl. She was much happier when doing the work now. Izoi asks Mari about her grandmother. He wishes to know how she feels. Mari lowered her head. She says Granny doesn't seem to be doing well. She probably needs to be hospitalized. But that costs money, and since they are not in the best financial situation... Izoi puffs on a cigarette. Then Mari gets even more upset. She informs Kazuhiko that her mother is also having a hard time, which is why Mari was thinking about quitting high school to work. Izoi looks like he came up with an idea. He tells her that she needs to finish high school properly, and he will handle the problem with money. Mari was grateful to him for the offer. The girl says it would be great since her mom is relying on Ezoe too much. The man says we'll have to talk to her mom, Shiori-san, about the problem. Kazuhiko also tells her he needs her help with his new job. He claims it won't take long and it would also put her mom at ease. Mari wondered what kind of a job that was. She hoped there won't be anything inappropriate. The man was embarrassed to hear something like that from her. He says she has really bad thoughts of him if she assumes he is doing something naughty. Ezoe asks the girl not to overthink it and lets her be free at what she is doing. Mari's smile was wider than usual. Her loud appreciation sounded across the house. Luckily, there was no need for Ezoe to cover his ears. A couple of hours passed. The sky was littered by countless numbers of stars, and the girl did her job pretty well, even though it took a little more time than expected. The man says she did a great job. Then he lends her an envelope with her payment. He tells her he increased her payment from 8,000 to 10,000 yen. Mari was really amazed to hear that. She thanked him for his kindness. Mari took the envelope and left. Ezoe was smoking, watching Mari leaving. He wanted to tell her about the dungeon, but he postponed that conversation for the future. The man admits he will tell her everything when the time is right. Then he goes to the dungeon. He already missed quite a lot of time, so now he must hurry. This time, Ezoe won't be running across the dungeon with only bare fists. He takes out his spear. The man says he got an UC card from the weapon gacha yesterday, so today he will try to use the steel spear he got. Guess who has joined the party? That's right, Akane. She wonders if Kazuhiko finished his work up there. The man says he did. Ezoe also informs her that he has some ideas how to use the money from the dungeon, and he is thinking about practicing his weapon with the time he has for today. The efficiency of the spear was more than satisfying. It pierced goblins as if they were made of butter. A long, sharp spear was a perfect weapon for keeping goblins at a distance and striking them with fast, straight pokes. If goblins were not a problem for handling them with bare hands, now when Ezoe got the spear, the goblins were just annoying flies to him. The man defeated a couple of goblins with the spear, and it seems he got the idea of using his new weapon. Akane wondered how his spear handling was. The man replies he is getting the hang of using it with both and one hand. He also tells Akane that he already hunted all the goblins here, so it is time to go to the second floor. Equipped with his spear and accompanied by a beautiful lady, Ezoe went to the second floor. It was different from the first floor, not just because there were strange roots in the walls. The air was different, and the sense of safety has gone once they reach the second floor. Ezoe claims it feels like monsters can appear right away once they descend to the second layer. He asks Akane if there is a safe zone. She tells him she believes there should be one on this floor, and there should also be a teleportation array back to the first floor. The man was surprised. He says that this really feels like a light novel. The maze on the second floor. This is something Ezoe expected from an A-rank dungeon. But it's meaningless since Akane knows every nook and cranny of this place. Or at least she says so. But if the first floor was full of goblins walking around, the second floor wasn't a walk in the park either. A huge pig-like monster shows up. It was a D-rank monster called Orc. His heavy steps caused some noise. Though his presence was easy to notice, Ezoe doubted he could easily take the Orc down. The man didn't know a thing about the Orc. But Akane, she was shocked to see an Orc here on the second floor. The lady claims this is pretty rare for a D-rank monster to appear on the second floor. Meanwhile, their talkings didn't stop the Orc. The monster slowly but surely approaches them. Ezoe squeezed his spear. He looked at Akane's bothered face. What's she got on her mind? She looks unusual. The Orc rushed at them, shouting out loud. His deep scream deafened Ezoe and Akane. The monster ran, trying to crush them with his huge feet, or eat them with his fangs. Each of these would be deadly for Ezoe and Akane. The lady ninja picked up her kunai. She asked Kazuhiko to stay away from this filthy creature. Wait a minute. Is she going to take down the Orc by herself? The lady distracted the monster. The Orc rushed at her, but Akane was able to jump over him. While the Orc was trying to realize what happened, Akane swept her kunai, cutting the Orc. She did everything while in the air and even was able to land perfectly. Amazing! One small knife was able to take down the whole Orc. Ezoe was excited by what he saw. Actually, the man saw a few things. Not only did his partner take down the large pig-like monster, But that monster also dropped a 1,000 yen bill when defeated. But Akane was cool as if she just ate a candy. She tells him that this drop is quite usual and there is nothing to be surprised about. Akane says she has expected E-rank monsters to appear, but for a D-rank monster to appear, she suggests they go back to the first floor and think of a plan. Looks like Ezoe has his own thoughts. The man claims it is actually a good thing. He says that if it's a D rank, then the difference when testing the gacha should be clear. The lady says it is really dangerous since orcs have a huge physical power and can easily kill a human, but the man wasn't going to stop. He says that the good thing is that orcs drop 1,000 yen bills. If he hunts 100 of them, that would be 100,000 yen. Besides, continuously fighting will make him stronger as well. So he is determined to keep going. The fact that another orc spawned right in front of Ezoe was very convenient. Ezoe squeezed his spear tightly. Well, dude, you called it yourself. When the second orc was approaching him, Ezoe was thinking about the way to defeat the monster. He plans to use his 9 feet, 3-meter spear to stab an orc's guts, and then aim for its head. Good luck, man. The monster swept its hand lightly, but that was enough to knock out Ezoe and smack him right at the wall. Ezoe's plan failed drastically. Akane was worrying about Ezoe for a reason. She was scared when saw how hard Ezoe's body hit the wall. Was he all right? She had to check it. The man was laying down leaning on the wall. He was beaten and lost consciousness. Akane rushed to him. She must reach him before the monster does. Ezoe saw nothing but darkness around him. His body didn't move. A burning pain shot through his body. Was it the end? Just when he was about to give up, he saw a shining light up ahead. Some liquid. It flowed upon him and then he tasted it. It was good. The strength was going back to him. The man opens his eyes and sees Akane. Lady seems concerned and she holds a potion in her hand. It seems she just saved his life. Ezoe wondered if she just gave a potion to him. She apologized for that, telling him she actually used 2 potions. But Ezoe wasn't mad. He thanked her and said that she made everything right. The man raises up. He claims he chose the wrong weapon since he lost consciousness in an instant, but it wasn't the right time for talking. The orc charged for attack once again. Ezoe asked Akane for a little help this time. The man discovered that when orcs attack, they put their weight on their knees. This means if he can crush the knees, there is nothing to be afraid of. The orc rushed to crush Akane, but he didn't notice Ezoe was right behind him. The man raises his spear and hits the orc's knees so fast that the monster didn't know what hit him. Then both Ezoe and Akane go back to the safe zone. The fact that they defeated the D-rank monster on the first try was cheerful. The man supposes that they can move to the 3rd floor soon at this rate. But Akane wasn't so sure about this. When she chewed her rice, the lady told him that she doesn't want to go through the tough days experience again. She asks Ezoe not to overexert himself and just have a nice dinner and go to rest. The man agrees. He supposes they will stay on the 2nd floor for a little longer. Plus, that would be the great opportunity to advance his rank to D. The man claims that F rank is for ordinary people, whereas F rank is for athletes, and D rank is for peerless fighters and legendary warriors. Akane giggled. She was glad that her master finally challenged the limits of human potential. The man claims that ever since reaching E rank, he can defeat goblins in 1 hit. But orcs are tough, so he should strengthen his body with supplements and the strengthening factor. Ezoe says they must aim for the rank up and move on to the next stage, which means founding his own company? Amazing. Looking forward to that. It seems Ezoe and Akane are doing well. Lady Akane sits surrounded by a bunch of sacks. Apparently, these sacks are filled with money they get as the reward. Akane also notices that Ezoe defeated 6,000 goblins today, so they saved quite a bit of money. The lady wondered if Ezoe was going to continue his work above ground. Ezoe's response was quite expected. It seems there is nothing to add to it. Ezoe explains that this world is an informational society. If someone has a lot of money, the government will check its source. To use the money from the dungeon, it's better to continue working during the day. But the man has to admit that the amount of money has gotten quite big. This is true. The amount of cash was so big that Ezoe ended up buying a large safe to keep it there. He supposes he should probably consult Iwa-chan, his childhood friend, about it. Which means Ezoe must meet Iwamoto. I wonder if the guy will be the first person to know about the dungeon from Ezoe. They met in a big bright office with comfortable chairs around the table. Iwamoto was speaking about the exchange. He assumes that regarding the exchange, there is no problem, and it will also save them some problems too, as well as the real estate company. Friend also lets Izoi know that a company he does business with is also working out a land sale, but it will cost Izoi money. The man didn't mind. He was fine with that. In fact, Izoi says that he plans to buy all the land in cash in a lump sum. Iwamoto sighed with relaxation. He claims that for the fact Izoi called him out of nowhere, it sounds like quite a positive story. Izoi agrees with that. But since the deal was unexpected and a big amount of money was involved, Iwamoto was worried. He knew this question may sound inappropriate, but the stakes were too high. He asked if Izoi had the money that was needed for the deal. Izoi nodded. He had a lot of money, but he also had some concerns about the deal. For a second, the man hesitated, but then he asked Iwamoto a question. Izoi wondered what Iwamoto would do if he found a cave with money flowing out of it. Wow, this one is interesting. The question catches Iwamoto out of guard. Why would Izoi ask him about this stuff? He claimed that's a setting unlike Izoi. Izoi was embarrassed. Iwamoto tells him that if this fantastic thing happened to him, he would first check if the money is real. And then, whether they were real or not, he would inform the police about his discovery. And if he couldn't report it to the police, he would ignore it. At least the guy says he would consider it as an income if he couldn't report the police. But he also admits it would be hard to spend if it's in the hundreds of millions of yen. Iwamoto finished his speech, but by his anxious voice and the look of his eyes, it was clear that he had more to say. He just hesitated because it might cause some problems for him. In the end, he couldn't hold it back any longer. Iwamoto tells Izoi he has a contact in that field. Interesting. I bet nobody would think Iwamoto has such contacts in his surroundings. Izoi also was surprised. Izoi's friend told him that he will tell him because they are close friends. But Izoi has to keep it a secret. Iwamoto shares the idea with Izoi. He says that by circulating it in private virtual currency markets thousands of times, they make it untraceable. Eventually, they transfer it to bank accounts as consulting fees. Money laundering, basically speaking. Iwamoto claims that there are some people in Japan who are familiar with this method. The guy writes something on a piece of paper. He crumples it and pushes it to Izoi. The man took the paper quickly. He thanked him for advice and said that he will look into it next time. Even though this is obviously illegal activity and not something worthy of praise, but if the things continue like this, the world will end in 10 years. So Izoi agrees to do anything to avoid this. Iwamoto has written an address on the paper. At the certain time, Izoi came to the place. The area was somewhere in the city outskirts. Izoi noticed a car parked nearby. According to the instruction, he had to get in. The man slowly approached the car. He was nervous since the whole thing may be extremely dangerous. Izoi gets in the car. The light was turned off, so he couldn't see a thing. There was definitely someone in the driver's seat, but due to lack of illumination, Izoi couldn't see his face. The driver asked if Izoi was the one looking for a contract. He asked where the briefcase was. Izoi gave the case. Driver told him that if it's over 100 million yen, then he will take 10% as a commission. The rest of the money will be laundered and transferred from multiple companies. He also warns Izoi that there is the chance that some companies will be exposed, so he wonders if Izoi is fine with that. Izoi was definitely fine. He has nothing to lose after all. Driver told Izoi that they will see each other in a month. Izoi gets outside. Car's engine was started, and in a few seconds, Izoi found himself alone in this place. The man admits that there is no turning back now, so he must brace himself. Thus, we have to say farewell to Izoi. For a short time, of course. He needs to take a break and organize everything in his head. Then we will see him again. Meanwhile, we are going to travel to the other side of the ocean. Here we are in New York. The Big Apple is really fantastic at this time of the year. Looks like the mysterious powers reached the United States, which means America is the second country where the dungeon appeared. Some men came to the alley where the report came. They enlightened the area with their flashlights. But what they saw was terrible. They wished they had never come here. First, they saw a fog. But when the fog has cleared, they behold a huge rift right in the middle of the alley. It looks like the second dungeon was there. Which brings us to the heart of America, the White House. The news about mystic events in the alley were spreading so fast all over the country. No wonder that president was fully aware about strange occurrences in his motherland. This is also a great opportunity to meet the president himself. Judging by his haircut, we may say he's quite a type. This guy got his position for a reason. If someone is able to lead America to a bright future, that's him. At least he thinks so. Okay. Let's not judge a book by its cover. Besides, this man makes a good first impression. His staff was carefree to watch their boss claiming his country is the best. I mean, he does this for a reason, but they were just confused about the way Mr. President says this. Don't let this man's appearance confuse you. There is more within him than meets the eye. Oh, let me introduce him to you. The president's name is Ronald Howard. The president asks his staff about what happened. He wants to know who dared to attack the US. One of his assistants tells Ronald that they weren't attacked technically, but reports say that 2 unknown caves with different time flows have appeared. It was ridiculous to hear. Mr. President wonders if the guy didn't confuse something, but the assistant says the information is valid. The guy also claims that despite the fact that they are still investigating, the reports have been coming in that unknown creatures have appeared. Ronald was also aware that the time flows differently. He wonders how much. The guy says that approx 140 to 150 times, but they have yet to measure it precisely. So the time has come. Time for a man like Ronald to take full responsibility for what's going on in his country. Time to face the unknown mysterious occurrences and handle them like a real man responsible for his people. Ronald was overflowing with emotions. He smacks the table in his rightful rage. President Ronald says very clearly that America must not be threatened by any kind of a danger. He claims they must investigate these occurrences thoroughly. The American government was aware of dungeons quite fast, and they were also starting to plan how to handle the problem. Meanwhile, another dungeon has appeared in Tokyo. I wonder if the Japanese government was also informed about these threats. I guess it was since Tokyo wasn't the only place where the dungeon was spotted. A huge rift appeared in Osaka Umeda. A sweet couple was having fun in the car in the parking lot. Good thing they weren't aware about what happened, because it would ruin their time. Or maybe it would be better if they saw the rift. At least they would drive away to the safe place to continue the evening. In any case, a huge rift was just a few inches from them. Yes, they should probably get out of there. An interesting occurrence took place in Nagatacho. A couple of people were talking about strange photos. Apparently, it was a monster from the dungeon, a big muscular wolf, or something like that. It was an erectus creature. Some of them assumed it was kobold from manga. Everybody agreed that the creature was looking like something from a light novel. Someone supposed it might just be a fine costume and it was a regular human behind the mask. But that version was off the table pretty quickly. Everybody gathered to listen to the reporting. The man who read the text said that last week, a sinkhole appeared in an underground parking lot in Osaka. 2 police officers who rushed to the scene were attacked by the creature in the photo. One of them died in the line of duty, and the other was seriously injured. Plus, the day before yesterday, riot police tried to enter, but their weapons turned into cards and they were attacked by the same creature, resulting in injuries. A couple guys quickly assumed it may be a terrorist attack, but the man told them that there is no movement from any religious or leftist group. Besides, even if it were a planned attack, what would be the meaning of such a large-scale operation? The other man asked if there were any movements from the sea. The man says that there were. He mentions that inquiries from the USA report similar strange caves appearing in New York and Chicago. No damage has been confirmed yet, like in Japan. Someone wondered if there is anything from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. The man replied that there is nothing yet, but he assumed to check with ASEAN countries as well. ASEAN, Association of Southeast Asian Nations. That someone was sitting at the table. He claimed to proceed with caution. If this is terrorism, it could be a global terrorist organization they are unaware of. He says that the main problem is that nothing is known. The man at the table was Seiichiro Urabe, 98th generation prime minister. He claimed that if it's an unknown natural disaster, then chaos will be inevitable. So they have to hurry and report to the United Nations. That day, it was noisy in Tokyo, specifically in Edogawa-ku, Shikagawacho. Traffic jams formed on the roads and drivers honked at each other, looking for a detour. The news was all about rifts and caves all over the world. News anchor assured viewers that in the current situation, the government is coordinating with ASEAN countries. Additionally, the government responded to that confusion. Izoi turned off the TV. He assumed there were casualties, so now the whole world is in a state of panic. Akane says that even with the appearance of the dungeons, some people are demanding to be let in, despite it being dangerous in there. She claims that such fools have to learn the hard way. Besides, they won't be any help for Izoi. The man contradicted her. He told Akane that he is actually looking for comrades who vow to conquer the dungeon together with him. Members for the Dungeon Conquest Specializing Company, like Dungeon Busters. I like the design of their business cards, to be frank. Akane asked if they would start gathering comrades right away. The man says there is no need to rush. He wanted to see how the world reacts first. They need people with a steadfast mind in Dungeon Busters. They need comrades who can fight not just for themselves, but for others as well. Her name is Shiori Kanuchi. She was born and raised in Osugi, Edogawa-ku, in a happy family. The turning point in her life was when she got pregnant with Mari while in high school. She married her boyfriend at the time, but they got divorced soon after. So Shiori had to raise her daughter on her own. And if that was not enough, her second cousin Ezoi-san visited and asked if Mari could work part-time at his place. Ezoi, who is 6 years older than Shiori, hired Mari when she was in middle school for 30,000 yen a month. The woman claims that 6 years have passed since then. Shiori heard footsteps. These were light steps, so the woman felt relaxed. She knew it was her daughter. Then Mari showed up and greeted her mom. The girl said that she is back from Ezoi's place. Shiori wondered if Mari was polite, but daughter surprised her with the news. Izoi raised her pay. Besides, Mari tells mom that the man promised that he would introduce her to a job where she can earn even more. Shiori was concerned about an unexpected offer from Ezoi. She asked if the man is not going to involve her in some strange work, like shooting weird movies. Mari claims that the man didn't mention anything like that. She added that Ezoi will show her the place next time. Shiori was thinking about something, but she said they will talk about it later. For now, she reminded her daughter to take a bath first. Mari came to the bathroom. Cleaning Ezoi's house wasn't the easiest work. Besides, it was quite dirty there, so taking a bath is a great option now. Izoi wasn't home. The time has come. The man who took a briefcase back then in the city outskirts called him. They were about to talk about the cash. Ezoi claims he checked the contract so he can relax for a bit now. The man on the phone told Izoi that he has confirmed 300 million yen in cash. He said he will transfer the 270 million yen after the 10% to the specified account. Kazuhiko sighed. So they were done here then. The man plops on the bed. He lays comfortably and starts thinking about his next steps. First, if he will get 270 million yen, it will be about half of that, considering taxes. He decides that they need a bit more funds. After Ezoi is done resting, he sits in his car and drives away. The traffic was all right. Nothing unusual for this country. The man was driving nice and smooth. He was fully concentrating on the road and fastened his seatbelt. So he noticed something to his right. It seems that someone got hit. At least it looks like it. Or it looks like a catastrophe. Everybody stepped out of the cars to check what was ahead. What they discovered was unbelievable. A giant rift appeared on a freeway, blocking all the traffic. Izoi says it's the dungeon on the road to Osaka. The second wave has finally come. The crowd started to worry. People were questioning what that hole was. Someone supposed it is a dungeon thing. Then one man asked somebody to call the police. Izoi, on the other hand, had a slightly different plan. He steps ahead to be closer to the rift. All the others tries to stop him. They asked Izoi to step back because this is a dungeon and it's dangerous down there. The man acted like he didn't hear those words. He checks time. At 11 p.m., a dungeon has been confirmed on the new Yokohama road. Then Ezoi takes off his watch and passes it to a girl. The man claims that if this is a dungeon, then the flow of time should be different. Izoi believes that if he dives in a little, he will come out right away. This one was interesting. Izoi notices it's a stone dungeon. He wonders how different it will be from the abyss. I guess there is also one way to find out. The man turned his eyes to the crowd. It seems they were waiting. Ezoi admits that for the others, his action must look like he went down in an instant. Okay, then it was time to check the interior of the dungeon. It was slightly different from the first one. The entrance was clear. Izoi saw a shuttered door ahead. It was a dungeon safe zone. Okay, so the monsters shouldn't bust through there. At least for now. Since it was quite boring without monsters down here, Izoi decides to go farther. He takes on his brass knuckles and clangs them. The man steps to the door and pulls the door handle. He was wondering what kind of creatures inhabited the place. Huh? A rabbit? Nah, you ain't gonna trick me, pal. There is absolutely no way a friendly rabbit could live in the dungeons. Could they? Izoi was quite shocked watching a little fluffy cutie down here. But it doesn't look like its appearance tricked the man. Izoi was sharp, and he did the right thing. Because the rabbit, despite his cuteness, rushed at the man. When a little rodent was close enough, he bared his mouth, showing a pair of little but dangerously sharp teeth. Izoi considered the fact that the monster abandoned its disguise was a good thing. At least now, he felt more natural and could do what he has been perfecting for a long time: beating monsters. His fists were faster than a rabbit's fluffy body, so when the rabbit was aiming for a forearm to bite, he got nothing but a devastating punch in the muzzle. Little monster fell defeated and vanished in a fog. Strangely, this monster didn't drop a coin. However, Izoi still received the reward for his victory. He saw something was sparkling on the ground. The man stepped closer and saw a little stone. Izoi picked it up. For the first time, he had a stone instead of money. The man says he will ask Akane about this. All of a sudden, the man heard a rustling. He looked there and saw a pair of cute rabbits in front of him. Well, when together, they are really beautiful. Apparently, they saw what happened with their mate, so none of them tried something funny towards Izoi. I hope he also didn't harm them. After all, they were quite cool. Since he checked everything he planned, Izoi hid the stone in his pocket and headed above ground. As expected, the people from the crowd were surprised to see him back. They claim they didn't notice when Izoi got back. Izoi admits that he expected that to people on the surface, he returned in an instant. He told them to rest assured that there didn't seem to be any danger as long as they didn't enter. They didn't believe what he said. It didn't matter a lot. Izoi admits that this is probably the same dungeon as the one that appeared in the Umeda parking lot a month ago. Therefore, as long as people don't get too close, they should be safe. Thus, he told people to call the police now. But not everybody was excited about Izoi's demeanor. Some dude thought Izoi was just bragging. He called the man out. To be honest, Izoi wasn't that type of guy you should be joking about. He was the real deal, which perfectly fitted to his response. Izoi responded that he is the one responsible for eradicating the dungeons that appear. The man wasn't himself if he hadn't brought his business card as well. He showed it to the crowd. I wonder if there is anybody willing to join Izoi's company. We will surely know this in the future. The stone Izoi brought from the rift on the new Yokohama road was probably a type of magic stone. Akane concluded so when she saw the stone. She tells Izoi that such stones are crystallized magic power. Usually, the magic can be only used by those with talent, but anyone can use magic by using a magic tool that uses magic stones. The strangeness of appearing the stone as the reward was because the dungeons naturally reward with things what a world needs most. But since Earth doesn't use magic, it is strange for magic stones to appear. Izoi assumes that the magic stones must be essential for civilizations that have developed magical technology. But he wonders why they have appeared on Earth, which has developed scientific technology. Akane claimed Izoi told the truth. But she also wondered what Izoi thinks the people of this country and the world need the most now. She thinks that's the answer. In any case, both of them were having the conversation in a not quite appropriate place. They were on the 3rd floor of the Abyss dungeon. No wonder they were attacked by D-rank monsters, skeleton knights. Basically, it was just that. A skeleton with a sword. But they were more dangerous. Not only did they use a weapon, but the skeletons also were D-rank. Let's not forget that Izoi also was taught to handle his spear. So these skeletons were no different than a bunch of goblins for him. The man stabbed the skeleton with the spear once and turned it to a bunch of crushed bones. The skeleton knight dropped the usual reward, 1,000 yen. Akane was once again amazed by her master. She claimed it was expected of him. But the man clenched his teeth. The battle wasn't over yet. Izoi says that the skeleton knights carry swords and are always in groups of 4, so he must be careful not to get surrounded. They are weaker than the orc, but worth 4,000 yen, so taking them down is an option. Akane claims that the knight's choice of weapon works in Izoi's favor. She says that until the man encounters orcs again, he won't need to worry. True. The skeleton knights, even though they were in a group of 4 and carried weapons, were no match for the man. He swept his spear left to right, crushing some bones and getting rewarded. Akane put her efforts in handling the skeletons as well. Let's not forget that. In fact, she dealt with a whole orc by herself, so her combat skills were pretty legit. And after the orc, a couple of skeletons weren't a problem for the lady. She cut them with her kunai quite easily. Dealing with monsters is truly a profitable enterprise. I wonder how much cash they have collected at this point. Izoi claims it's going better than he expected, so he assumes he will add weights while hunting starting tomorrow. He wants to do that in order to put strain on himself and rank up. As expected, Japan and the USA reported to the UN about the dungeon problem. Shortly, all nations gathered in the UN headquarters to discuss the simultaneous worldwide dungeon manifestation phenomenon. This wasn't the official name of the phenomenon. Sweatimp was the name given to the occurrences by scholars. The UN held numerous general meetings, and governments of various countries were busy responding. One of the ambassadors claims his country has 25 dungeons within its border. Therefore, he asks for the financial aid proportional to the number of the dungeons. His colleague claims that's because their country has a large territory and population. He asked if they could manage with their own funds. Then the ambassador of the USA took the word. She claims her country is bothered about the bias of where dungeons appear. Compared to America, the People's Republic of China has many dungeons. She wondered if it would be better to consider that it is proportional to the population, not the land. The ambassador's words shocked the audience. The ambassador of the Philippines claimed that the USA's ambassador is right. He says that the Philippines are smaller than Japan, but the dungeons appeared in 2 places, Manila and the capital. So the Philippines supported the idea of considering proportions to the population, not the land. The ambassador told everyone that his country does not want to bear any more security risks. To combat the dungeons, they demand the withdrawal of troops deployed at national borders and seas from all UN member countries. The Chinese ambassador contradicted them. He claims what they say is absurd. The man highlights that the South China Sea is their own territorial waters. Therefore, if the previous speaker wants them to fall back, they must recognize their sovereignty. The other ambassador agreed with him. He assumes that the withdrawal of troops may lead to invasion from the north. For security measures, they must leave at least a minimum amount of troops. Soon after, the ambassador of another country smacked the table in rage. He told everyone that the dungeons appeared in his country as well. He encouraged the others to cooperate and said that it is the right time to lift sanctions from his country. Yes, sure. The head of the UN asked for silence. All those quarrels caused a headache. He claims that in any case, they must take immediate action against the current situation. Then, they start discussing the financial aid and the conditions countries have to follow in order to get the aid. Meanwhile, in the White House, the USA president listened to the report. Ronald's counselor claims that demands regarding the disclosure of information about dungeons are growing stronger every day. There have been demonstrations in Chicago, the Dow Jones average has plummeted, and at this rate the Congress will be forced to act. Ronald responded in his unique style. He assumes, for the reason, that no one will believe that weapon turning into cards and some other fantastic things like status display. He claims that he would rather just blow up the whole dungeon. The counselor says that the Speaker of the House of Representatives is understanding, but the Democratic Party members are pushing back. Then Ronald asks a reasonable question. Even if the USA disclose information, what's the chance that the public will believe it? Besides, it could be a diplomatic issue. The counselor comes up with an idea. He supposes it would be effective if the information will be announced jointly with other world leaders at the G7 conference. The man assumes that the dungeon countermeasures will likely be on the agenda at the upcoming G7 meeting in Nagoya, so they should disclose the information about the dungeons in a joint statement by the developed countries. Mr. the President listens to his assumption carefully. He complimented the man for his idea, claiming that this is great. Then he asked to contact Seiichiro immediately. At the same time, when the world leaders were solving the global problem, or at least they thought so, Izoi was clearing the dungeon's next floor. He actually has been solving the global problem as well, and he has succeeded in that. He encountered another group of skeleton knights. All he did was count how many skeletons he took down overall. With these skeletons, it will be 300 already. Yes, he doesn't consider skeletons as a threat anymore. He sees them as an annoying obstacle between him and the reward. Akane noticed this change in the man. She reminded him not to get cocky and watch his eyes to not get surrounded. As expected, after a few seconds, the man dealt with the skeletons. The money dropped on the ground. The man claims he defeated 300 skeletons in 45 minutes, and this should earn them a lot. What? He did it by using a shovel? Looks like the man changed his weapon. I guess using a long spear inside a tight-spaced dungeon was a bad option. The length of the spear was too big, so he needed something long but short enough to be used inside the dungeon effectively, like the shovel, for example. Izoi says that at this rate, with the current cycle, it's 1.6 million yen. That is 36 million yen in 1 day of Earth time. Akane was surprised. She noticed that for this, Izoi has to defeat 200,000 skeletons in 6 days. She asked Izoi how much he plans to fight. All of a sudden, a status display appeared. Look closely at Izoi's rank. Looks like he got his other rank up. He reached C rank now. Izoi heard congratulations to his side. The voice claimed that the racial limit break is confirmed. Great thing to hear about. Furthermore, the voice claimed that the man, as the first to achieve this feat, the legendary card, Cheeky Emily, will be presented. Also, it was not all the good news. The voice told Izoi to aim next for Existence Break Limit. Existence Break Limit was something Izoi has never heard of, but it sounded like a thing he will need in the future. He thought it would be useful for him, but then he recognized that the voice he heard was actually Akane's voice. How is that possible? The card, Cheeky Emil, appeared in front of the man. It was his gained reward, and just in a few seconds he will see Emily herself. The girl with voluminous hair and cute pair of cat ears turned from a card to a living being. My, she was charming. Izoi froze in place, looking at Emily. Why was she called Cheeky? Her cheeks seem all right. The girl slowly approached Izoi. Her clacking heels sounded across the dungeon. Somehow the man knew her nature will be different from the one Akane possesses. Emily showed her baculus with a bunch of spades and a small sphere in the center. Immediately after she stepped close to Izoi and Akane, Emily irritatedly claimed that both of them have to be ashamed of how they peeked into someone's privacy. This girl was one of the great 108 pillars, a genius magician. The way she appeared made Izoi and Akane to step back. They both stared in surprise at the girl, hoping they were not in big trouble. Who knows? Who knows? Emily was truly frustrated. She demanded Akane and Izoi to be grateful since they were standing in front of her. Emily, one of the greatest pillars, a genius mage. This mage really has a big ego. But I don't say it's a bad thing. I believe her skills are on the high level as well. Therefore, Emily doesn't consider neither Akane nor Izoi equal to herself. She says that normally she would make them address her with Sama, but she will make a special exception and allow them to call her Emily-san. Does it need to be said that such an appearance was so impressive that Izoi couldn't utter a single word? Well, maybe it was better this way. At least he could enjoy the company and appearance of such a fluent mage as Emily. I mean Emily-san, of course. Looks like Izoi recalls something. Yes, the man admits that sometimes he met people like this. People who are good at asserting themselves but don't communicate well. They only make the atmosphere in the company worse. Don't know about that. We will see. Akane greets Emily. Lady tilts forward and shows Emily her friendly smile. Lady Ninja and Izoi were really intended to accept Emily in their team sincerely, so they tried to behave as friendly as possible. Lady Akane introduced herself. She told Emily her name and a role. After that, Akane expressed her hope to work alongside Emily-san. Emily, who liked to call herself a genius mage, looked at Akane like the lady was an empty place for her. She yawned, showing them her boredom. After she looked directly at Akane, her eyes changed. They became haughty. Emily claimed it is bold to summon another of the 108 pillars besides her. Suddenly, Emily's demeanor changed. She looked away from Akane. Her face was becoming more and more frustrated. What's the reason for that? Akane was confused. She didn't know how to react to this. Lady Ninja asked Emily what's bothering her. To be honest, such a quick change was quite scary for Akane. Considering Emily is a fluent mage, it could have led to some troubles. The thing that bothered Emily was Akane's words. She just realized that Akane's name is familiar to her. Emily looked at the lady. She wondered if the lady just called herself Akane. Emily bares her baculus and nearly pokes Akane with it. She threatens the lady with the weapon. Unfortunately, neither Akane nor Ezoe knew the reason for such action. The lady stepped back with shock on her face. She calls Akane out for her outfit. Emily claims Akane wears quite lewd cloth as well as her lewd belt. She wonders what's the purpose of wearing this lewd bondage outfit. Emily believes Akane has been seducing the master with that. Nothing to add here. Emily unraveled the whole thing pretty easily. The sorceress also admits Akane has nerves since she was stealing the man away before Emily could. But such an inappropriate thing is not going to happen any further. Emily claims that from now on, she will be in charge, and asks Akane to mind that in the future, and in the present as well. The tone of her voice and her posture were so threatening at that time that Akane understood that Emily is a real deal. Emily even afforded to mock Ezoe. She claimed that the man seems dull anyway. A satisfying smile appeared on her face. Well, even if she is a real deal, she is also the sorceress who thinks too highly of herself. Anyway, Emily just asked Akane to obey this fact. That was too much. Ezoe wasn't intended to just stand there and listen to Emily's mockings towards Akane and him. He stepped to the sorceress and lifted her on his shoulder. Emily cried out of surprise. She immediately demanded to be put back on the ground. The man didn't mind her demandings. He told Emily to be quiet and be prepared to be disciplined. Meanwhile, Ezoe asked Akane to keep an eye out for monsters. Emily yelled at him one more time, but it didn't help her. Ezoe was carrying her away. The scared sorceress looked around looking for help. She tried to convince Akane to help her. She told Akane to help her. But Lady Akane smiled. She doesn't mind teaching Emily some good manners. Akane asked Ezoe to punish Emily thoroughly to his heart's content. The man brought her to a separate room. He put her down on the floor, but she was fine since she landed on her butt. I guess that's why she is called Cheeky Emily, because if she lands like this, well, you try to guess it. The point is, Ezoe wasn't in the mood to joke. Emily's demeanor and huge ego irritates him. He looked at her with his strict gaze. Emily hid her eyes like a naughty kitten. She knew she was about to be scolded. Ezoe claimed he didn't expect a genius mage and one of the 108 pillars would be such a loudmouth with no substance and huge ego. He says they don't need allies like that when the world is at stake. Therefore, Emily has 3 options. Die here. Wow, that's kinda too much. The second option is to change her attitude right now. And the third option is to change her master. So, he asks what her choice is. Emily sits on the floor just like a naughty kitten. By her expression, it is clear that Ezoe's tone isn't what she expected to hear. The fact that a regular human is scolding her was quite annoying to her. Why was she treated like that? Well, because of how she treated others. It wasn't the end, though. Emily wasn't intended to lose her positions. The sorceress smirked. She had one big upper hand. She wasn't a human. So the genius mage asked Ezoe not to get naughty. Because she, as the great magician, will do something that... The man interrupted her. Not only did she treat others like trash, but this arrogant sorceress tried to argue for her right to do so. He claims that Akane calls him Kazuhiko-sama, and Emily is allowed to call him either like that or the master. With this being said, he adds that Haoyu won't allow any other names. Emily gritted her teeth in frustration. The question, "Who do you think you are to treat me like that?" was read in her eyes. What could she say to this? Not much, I guess. Kazuhiko was inexorable. He asked why Emily is waiting so long to say yes. Because she wasn't about to say yes. At least, she believed he treated her wrong. Emily yelled at Ezoe. She asked Ezoe the question she has been wanting to ask for a long time. The sorceress asks the man who he thinks he is to treat her this way. Ezoe's demeanor completely changed. His eyes overflowing with rage, and his posture took a threatening appearance. He says he understands where it's going. So in this case, he is forced to teach her a lesson once and for all. The sorceress cried out of shock. This mere human just said that he is going to teach her a lesson? But her irritation quickly changed into fear. The menacing look of Ezoe was so strong she almost felt it on a physical level. The scolding silenced for a second. then followed with a sound of slap and Emily's yoiks. Good thing he brought Emily to the separate room. At least Akane didn't see that. Bad thing is that Ezoe hit the girl. Well, let's see where it's going. After being hit, the sorceress cried. Emily was just sitting on the ground, covering her eyes with hands and wiping her tears. She leaned on the wall and avoided looking at Ezoe. Soon after, Akane shows up in the room. She was kind of satisfied that Emily was taught by Ezoe, but the fact that the lesson required physical measures upset her. Emily didn't look at Akane. Ezoe asked if the sorceress had calmed down yet. The man leaned next to Emily. He claims he doesn't mind her being cheeky, but he won't tolerate her disrespecting Akane and him. The girl wiped her tears and for the first time lowered one of her hands. Did she realize what happened and why Ezoe did so? The man informs Emily that in 10 years the world will be destroyed. It is because of the threat of the dungeons that appeared all over the world. In order to prevent that, Ezoe needs Emily's power. Therefore, the man says that if Emily really can't stand having him as her master, she can return to her card. Besides, the sorceress is free to choose another master, and Ezoe promises to help her with finding one if she likes. Emily's sobbing has been stopping. She wipes her tears away. The girl says she's fine with that. Her head was still lowered, but it seems that she understood why Ezoe did what he did. Will she agree to change her attitude? The sorceress claims she agrees to fight next to the man. As she wipes her tears, she says that after all, she is Emily, a top-tier legendary rare card. If it's not her who can stop the destruction of the world, then who else is able to do it? Looks like Ezoe's lesson worked. The arrogant attitude disappeared for now. Besides, she called him the master, not mere human. Ezoe took it like she agreed to his conditions. Therefore, he told her what he was about to tell when he met Emily. The man said he is looking forward to working alongside her. The man turns the squeaking board over. On the other side, Ezoe and Akane have written notes and different formulas. They were making calculations and other things. Since it was their notes, Emily wondered what the strange notes were. The man tells her he was going to explain the dungeons they have gone to so far. Ezoe claims that 98 days have passed since the dungeon system was activated. He also tells Emily that the second wave of the cluster phenomenon has passed, and more than 130 dungeons should have appeared. The sorceress claims that Ezoe used the word should. She wonders if the man hasn't confirmed it yet. Ezoe claims that the number of dungeons reported by the UN is 36. So including the unconfirmed ones, there should be likely over 130 dungeons. Looks like the girl wasn't the type who is being convinced fast. She says that Ezoe mentioned he needs allies, but she doesn't see many people around here. Emily wonders what kind of plan Ezoe has in his mind and what he is going to do. Besides, she tells him that Emily prefers to cooperate with other cards rather than humans. Yes, she speaks about herself in a third person. The man tells Emily that for now he plans to make their next ally a human. What upsetting news for Emily. The man asks her to listen to him. He says there are a few reasons for that. First, he assumes that the dungeons will be open to the public soon. The second reason for that is Ezoe's interest. The man admits he is wondering what will happen when people other than himself enter the dungeons. He would be glad to observe that. The sorceress listened closely to her master. Whereas the first reason was pretty understandable for her, the second reason, mentioned by Ezoe, surprised her. She doesn't really understand why he needs this, but she agreed to that since it was the thing her master wanted. The final reason, sounded by Ezoe, was that to get the world to recognize the Dungeons Buster organization, he needed to increase the number of allies. Emily wondered when the man was going to start the organization itself. The man was thinking about it for a while. Ezoe claims it would probably gonna happen after he is done with moving. All right, seems pretty reasonable for me. But Emily was surprised by this news. Her cat ears wobbled in an instant. She asked Ezoe about moving, what exactly he meant by that and how long he assumes it will take. I guess we are done here for now. I'm pretty sure Ezoe and his new partner will get along. Meanwhile, let's visit Nagoya now. This is the exact place when the G7 meeting is about to start. This is the opportunity we can't miss. The US president says that his country has confirmed that the black stones produced by dungeons can split water to produce hydrogen. He claims that these stones will create demand for hydrogen power generation systems and trigger a new energy revolution. Furthermore, Ronald says that the USA proposes the simultaneous global release of this information and the establishment of a dungeon management organization under the UN. He claims that now is the time for all countries around the world to work together. The Japanese ambassador assured that his country fully supports the idea of President Howard. He claims it is impossible for individual countries to handle the dungeons alone. Therefore, they must cooperate on a global scale. One of his colleagues asked what President Howard exactly meant by a dungeon management organization. She mentioned that in her country, monsters are strong, and even the special troops are struggling to fight them. The man said that the Global Gungeon Organization means establishing a new profession specialized in exploring dungeons and having an international organization manage it. One of those who were present on the summit immediately came up with the name of the profession, Dungeon Explorer. He also claimed that the private sector involvement will be essential for this new profession. Some man claimed that there can be much more down there in the dungeons than just a bunch of black stones. He assumes the dungeons can hide such things as unknown medicines and technologies. So he wonders if there is an English term that captures the essence of such an unknown explorer. Some dude responds that Indiana Jones will fit quite well. I guess everyone laughed at his joke. This idea was off the table, obviously. Luckily, soon after someone remembered the right term. Not Indiana Jones. It is he adventurer. Classic term, I like that. 1 month has passed since the G7 summit. News anchor says that the G7 in Nagoya has decided to establish the General Dungeon Exploring Organization under the UN management. As it was claimed, the explorers are going to be exploring the dungeons, mapping them and collecting the black stones. Izoi turns off his TV. Lately, the news didn't satisfy him. Looks like he was even upset about what he heard. The anchor claimed that every person may become a candidate for explorers. For now, it remains questionable whether or not the candidate must possess combat skills. Kazuhiko admits that he expected something like this. But the fact that leading countries revealed this information to the public so soon surprised him. However, it seems that the UN members won't be able to act immediately, as they need some time before they can start. That means only one thing. Izoi has to find allies as soon as possible. Speaking of which, looks like Mari and Shiori may become one in the near future. Do you remember when Izoi told Emily about moving? Well, there it is. It wasn't just a courtesy call from Mari and Shiori. Both of them helped Izoi to move into his new apartment. Apparently, girls helped to move some boxes full of different stuff to this place. Izoi claims he is very grateful for their help. Shiori was quite amazed. She would never expect that Izoi decides to move out from his old house. Mari was rustling in Ezoi's stuff. She found some armored vests. The girl wonders why the man is doing all this in the first place. Kazuhiko says he is about to speak with them. Well, when the man says he just wants to speak, it means that he guides Mari and Shiori down in the dungeon. Luckily for them, they were beside the man who ranked up to C rank, or higher, since he hadn't checked his status for a long time. They were surely surprised, but at least their fear was controlled. The man explains that this is one of the dungeons that is being discussed all over the world, and they have just teleported. That means the ability to teleport into the dungeon at instant. His words shocked Mari and her mom. They wondered what he meant by saying about teleportation. The man says it all started 4 months ago. A strange hole appeared in his backyard, and the man decided to go down just because of his curiosity. He remembers when he saw a big hollow space underground and pulled the old strange door. Here is how it started. And now his job is to kill the dungeon's monsters. He also blocked the entrance so nobody except him could enter. Shiori claims Ezoi's story scared her. She says she probably wouldn't be able to sleep after what she heard. But Izoi points out that the problem is much more dangerous. He says that in the next 8 months, the dungeon system will be fully activated, and he doesn't know what will happen to humanity after that. Furthermore, he wants Mari to join his team, and this was the actual reason why he asked them to come today. Mother and daughter froze in place after that statement. Izoi keeps speaking about the dungeons. The man says that dungeons extend all over the world. In Japan, similar dungeons appeared in Osaka and Yokohama. Shiori asks the man why he wants her daughter to help him with the dungeon clearing. Izoi says he is going to protect Mari at all costs. He adds that if the dungeons won't be conquered, then in 10 years the monsters would rise. In order to prevent this, Izoi plans to conquer as many dungeons as possible. Shiori was still refusing to believe him. She says that if it's true, then she cannot allow her daughter to be involved in such a dangerous venture. The man offers a high payment for Mari's services. Izoi says he will pay her 2,000 yen per hour. Of course he means in dungeon time. Mari wondered what exactly means in dungeon time. Izoi explains that down here the time passes differently than above ground. The time passage here is 144 times faster than usual, which means that Izoi will pay for 144 hours. So Mari's paycheck will be around 288,000 yen. The amount of money is truly huge. But whereas Mari was excited about this sum, her mom was absolutely against this idea. She was disappointed. Woman claims she is shocked that Izoi tried to convince them using money. Shiori tells him that this conversation is over. Izoi knew it was his last chance. So he decided to offer something more valuable than money: the safety of Mari. The man shows a potion to Shiori and her daughter. He says that this rare item is effective even against serious diseases. By showing the potion, he wants to assure them that what he says is true. And in case they will believe him, Izoi hopes they will help him as well. Besides, he claims that they are all here to protect Mari. All? What does he mean by saying all? Does he mean... Yes, he means. The man shows 2 cards to them. Shiori wonders how the man is supposed to prove his words. The man snaps his fingers. Lady Akane and Sorceress Emily show up in an instant. Izoi says that these girls are the dungeon characters, and they are also members of Dungeon Buster Company. Then they introduce themselves. Akane calls her name and says that she is a female ninja. Emily does the same and says she is a great sorceress. Izoi claims that these 2 help him to conquer dungeons. He thought that Mari was going to help them collect the drop from defeated monsters. Shiori says that she is sorry, but as a mother, she cannot allow her daughter to go down into some dangerous dungeon. Mari tried to contradict her. The need for adventures has been living in her heart. But Mari also didn't want to upset her mom. She asks Izoi to give them some time to think about his offer. The man agrees since he understands that it is a hard decision for Shiori. He lends them money and says he wants to thank them for their help today. The man hopes they will accept it. Izoi has to conquer all the dungeons within 10 years. But what if something goes wrong? The man makes this assumption. He claims he needs a person who will succeed him in case something happens. Akane hopes Izoi is going to find such a person. He says they should wait for Mari's answer. Shiori was driving her daughter back home. Mari lowered her head, squeezing a potion. Mom noticed something was wrong with the girl. She wondered what happened. Mari claims that it was actually the first time when Izoi asked them for help. He has never asked for help before, but he was always there when they needed help. Shiori and Mari haven't felt lonely as they knew they had Izoi, and the man never refused to help them financially. So if she can help him now, she agrees for anything. Shiori admired her daughter's braveness. She thought she might have done the wrong thing by refusing Izoi's offer. Mom stops the car. She just asks her daughter to not overwork and be careful. The woman also asks Mari to visit school regularly. She looked at her daughter and asked if she understood her. Mari looked at her mom with gratitude. She was excited. Of course she agreed with Shiori and thanked her for this decision. Izoi was standing near the window thinking about his own problems. Suddenly, the man heard clacking of heels behind. He turned around and saw Mari. She was glad to inform the man that she is ready to start helping him with the dungeon problem. The man was happy to hear that. A new ally, just what he needed the most. And a person who may succeed him. Looks like the girl took on an armored vest. I think it fits her well. So she spends her first time in the dungeon. Akane and Emily support her there. Looks like they are training and Mari already seems tired. So Akane and Emily suggest Emily to rest. Izoi, on the other hand, insists on a few more minutes of training. He admits it's been only 30 minutes since they entered the dungeon. And after Mari took on the armored vest, which weighs 11 pounds, 5 kilograms, her breathing increased. Emily tells Mari that she is not supposed to imitate him. Izoi asks her not to compare them. He tells Emily that he wears a 20 kilograms vest, about 40 pounds, and each of his hands bears with weighting agents that are 3 kilos, about 6 pounds. His legs were equipped with weighing agents 8 kilograms each, around 15 pounds, and the weighing agent on his lower back has 10 kgs, around 20 pounds. What they heard was shocking. Now Emily recalled that she heard Ezoe had to deal with pain in his muscles when he tried wearing armor and weights for the first time. The sorceress says that maybe Mari will get used to it soon, but the girl was at her limits already. She couldn't wear that heavy vest anymore. Mari fell on the ground and tried to catch her breath. She had no strength to go any farther. The man was impressed by her dedication. He claimed Mari proved her abilities and now is the time for her to recover. Suddenly, the girl noticed a card that dropped nearby. It was a rabbit card. Mari asked Ezoe about this card. She claimed that the creature depicted on it was a cutie. The man replied that this is a monster card, and those cards allow them to summon monsters inside the dungeons. Mari realized that this cutie lives only in the dungeon. She asked if she could summon the rabbit. The man didn't allow her to do that. He claims that the girl cannot use cards in order to have a monster as her pet. Emily doesn't agree with him. She says that the rabbit is really cute and looks so innocent. Therefore, she sees no problem with summoning one. In the end, Mari uses the card to summon the rabbit. The little cutie appeared within seconds. Mari was truly amazed by this fluffy cutie. It was so tiny and cool that the girl couldn't believe it was actually a monster. She assumes they must give him a name. Mari stops her choice at Mu-chan. Ezoe wasn't glad about this. He told Mari that it is dangerous to summon the creatures with cards. Despite its size, this is still a monster. The man asks Mari to stay away from the rabbit. Lady Akane supports Mari. She says that there is nothing wrong with summoning this rabbit. Even if he might become a pet, this rabbit can grow. They can watch for his growth to obtain more information about the monster's physiology. An experiment. Looks like Emily liked the idea. She says that Mari seems happy, so they should probably let the rabbit be. Besides, if the rabbit stays with them, it may become a trustworthy ally for Mari and any one of them as well. The man agrees with them. Then Mari encounters the first monsters in her life. Well, second ones since she faced the rabbit first. But I mean, he is a friendly type of monster, isn't he? But the goblins were different. They are the exact types which want to attack you and have some taste of you as well. Luckily, monsters weren't a problem for Ezoe, Akane, and Emily, so Mari was safe. Emily burns the monsters. She uses her ability called Fire Arrow to take down a bunch of goblins. She successfully dealt with goblins, but she was disappointed. Emily wished to face an equal foe, not this low-leveled trash. Mari says Emily is cool. The girl wonders if she can also use magic like this. Ezoe admits that their efficiency ratio has significantly grown. Now he was aware that using magic is an extremely useful trait. Emily told him it's no wonder since she is the one of the 108 pillars, and she is also the most powerful among all of them. Her ego was the same, but I can say she thinks high of herself for a reason. The sorceress steps to Mari. Emily tells her that once the girl will be able to use magic, she will be glad to teach her. Ezoe was cheered up having Emily along with them. He assumes they can go even farther now with the support of Emily's magic. Another bunch of goblins attack the team. Mari was scared of their look. She asks Akane who those creatures are. The lady says that these are F-rank monsters, goblins. They are as tall and annoying as kids, and once someone takes them down, that person will receive 500 yen as the reward. So Akane encourages Mari to fight goblins. The lady asks Mari to watch her. Then Akane encounters the bunch of goblins. The job was done shortly. In a while, there was nothing but a bunch of coins instead of deadly monsters. Mari was amazed by Akane's skills. Lady Ninja dealt with the threat by using just kunai. Akane says that Mari can feel safe around them, but she also wants the girl to be able to stand for herself here in the dungeon in case of emergency, and she wants Mari to understand that. Akane lends Mari 2 weapon cards. One was a shovel. Yeah, that one surprised the girl. The second card was a sword card. Mari wondered what she should choose. Akane said that it's not that important and Mari is free to choose whatever she likes the most. Mari chooses the sword. Akane smiles. Beautiful lady tells her that everyone is for himself down there, and the girl shouldn't be afraid of goblins' bites. After all, it feels like you were bitten by a dog. The girl rushed to the monsters and she was able to take the goblin down with one hit. Akane claimed it's a very good thing and she is proud of Mari.